All right, Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher joins me now. And Congressman, in the commercial break, it looks like there's breaking news that the White House and Congress have reached an interim deal on replenishing this money for the loans that need to go out. This just breaking, and I'm sure you're glad to see it, but it sure took a long time to get to this point.
Absolutely. We have gone through 14 years worth of SBA loans in 14 days to give you a sense of the need that's out there for our small businesses. And for the last 14 days, Speaker Pelosi and Senate Democrats have been playing politics with people's livelihoods. And that's a shame. I'm glad that they seem to have reached some form of agreement because the need is really great out there. And I hope we'll also see some substantive improvements to the program. For example, the eligibility requirements were a little murky in some cases. There was no disincentive, for example, for healthy businesses that have been unaffected by the program to apply for the program and potentially rob resources from the smaller businesses who need it more. And so I'm glad to see we got a deal. I look forward to reading the details of that deal. And I think it's time for us in Congress to go back to work. I can think of no more essential business than us, the elected representatives of the American people, trying to help our constituents out in this time of crisis.
Do you think it's safe and a good thing to go back to the Capitol? Do you think that Congress should return? Because you guys have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think it won't be business as usual. Obviously, we'll have to keep the Capitol closed to visitors, which is something we should have done a long time before mid-March. I think the members who perhaps have underlying health conditions could be encouraged to stay home. But the fact is we don't have a thoroughly vetted proxy voting or remote voting procedure in place. And I really think just a fundamental principle, if we're asking Americans to sacrifice, if we're asking those on the front lines, our healthcare workers, our first responders to risk themselves in order to help the country, we in Congress should be willing to lead by example. And I think we can do it in a safe way if we exercise some common sense and discipline.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your state. I'm particularly interested and concerned about America's farmers and ranchers out there. And I know the dairy farmers, they're in a little bit of dire straits right now.
Yeah, milk prices have been low for years now, so the dairy industry was already struggling, and this just adds another burden. And so it's why it's imperative that we find a way, as soon as it's responsible to do so and practically possible based on the enhanced data we have right now, to start thawing out our economy, to start reopening our economy. And that's not going to be something we can do with a one-size-fits-all top-down policy from D.C. or even a statewide policy from Madison, Wisconsin. It's going to have to be from the bottom up, city by city, village by village, county by county, in order to figure out how we start to get our economy moving, because we may be able to pass a replenishment of the Paycheck Protection Program that helps Wisconsin farmers, but there simply aren't enough federal dollars out there to cover the cost of a prolonged shutdown. So it really is important that we start to think through the next phase of this effort.